Hola, me llamo Carissa. I decided to do my project this week on the works of Antonio Gaudi. I decided to do this because I was really inspired by the Musica e Cultura we've been doing every week, and I just loved it. And in my art history class, I first started learning about Antonio Gaudi, and I really only got to see one of his major pieces, and I just really wanted to know more about it. So I really hope you enjoy. This picture on the left is Antonio Gaudi. He was born on June 25th, 1852. He was the son of a coppersmith. He got into architecture at a young age and attended school later in Barcelona, which is where I think his best pieces are. Gaudi started off as part of the Spanish-Catalan Modernista movement, and eventually he turned to his own signature style. His signature style is basically that he puts so much detail into everything that he does, which you'll see more of in the next few slides. He was largely influenced by nature, so a lot of his shapes are very organic. One thing that I thought was really interesting is that he rarely drew detailed plans of his work. Instead, he made them as he went on and just kind of winged it. Also, he was Catholic, and in a lot of his work he incorporated religious elements, and later on the church appreciated his work so much that they called him God's architect. So the first building that I wanted to show you is Casa Vicens. Casa Vicens is a family residence in Barcelona, or Catalonia as we've learned, designed by Antonio Gaudi and built for the industrialist Manuel Vicens. I decided to show this piece because it was his first important work where he started to shift into his own style. It was built in the period of 1883 to 1889. You can see his style too in the bright colors and the ceramic tile work. Those are also signature things of his. The former owner, Manuel Vicens, was the owner of a brick and tile factory, so the ceramic tiles pay tribute to his employment. The yellow flower tile was actually designed by Gaudi and was manufactured by the owner even. One fact that I really enjoyed was that because Gaudi loved nature so much, the plants that he destroyed in the making of this building were incorporated into the ceramic tile work. The next building that he did that was very major was the Casa Mila. The Casa Mila is done with a surrealist touch. It was constructed from 1905 to 1910. It was originally built for a married couple, Rosa Siegmund and Perry Mila. Rosa Siegmund was the wealthy widow of Joseph Guardiola, who was nicknamed an Indiano, which is a common term for the local Catalans returning from the American colonies with a ton of money. Her second husband, Perry Mila, was a developer who was ironically criticized for his flamboyant style, which is what goes along with a lot of Gaudi's work, and ridiculed by the contemporary residents of Barcelona when they joked about his love of money and questioned him if he ever really did love his widow or if he just loved her money. The Casa Mila was eventually turned into an apartment building, which I think it is still today. The wavy walls are made to look like ocean waves, and the windows and doors are supposed to look like they are dug out of sand. So you can see that here. This looks like waves, very curvy. And then the windows are supposed to be dug out of sand. They kind of have a sandy color to it too. Casa Mila is also better known as La Pedrera, or the Quarry. It was a very controversial design at the time for being so bold, and especially like the wrought iron decoration of the balconies and windows, because there was nothing really that they saw around this time. This is basically the surrealist work you see. It's just very out there. Another thing I like to add is that this is a rooftop, and it's pretty awesome because it's just who would put that on the roof? And this right here kind of reminds me of in drama when there's like the faces, the tragedy. It kind of reminds me of those, but these are actually the ventilation, and I thought that was pretty cool, so I had to share that with you. And this is inside the middle, so inside the middle up there, and then there's a little piece on the roof, and then these are right here as well. This is one of my favorite pieces. This is called the Parque Güell. I hope that I pronounced that right. It was originally intended as part of a residential garden community. That never happened, and Parque Güell was eventually sold to the city of Barcelona. Today, Parque Güell, or Güell Park, remains a public park and a World Heritage Monument. The park has many interesting features. The huge public square in the center of Parque Güell is surrounded by a continuous wall or bench, which you see here, and it shows his extensive tile work. It's pretty cool. I'd really like to go there and see it. Also, in Gaudi's work, there is a strong element of playfulness, so kind of you can see that with the dragon over there on the side. The entire Güell Park is made of stone, ceramic, and natural elements. For the mosaics, Gaudi used broken ceramic tiles, plates, and cups. One thing that I really enjoyed, that since he was so attached to nature, an interesting fact is that he recycled all the ceramics rather than firing new ones. So these are actually all recycled tiles. Another thing that I just wanted to point out, actually two things. This is actually built like sideways, but you can actually walk straight up and down through it. It's actually not that difficult. It kind of looks like it would be, but you actually can walk straight up and down through this. But it's just another one of his signature things. And also, with his playfulness that he's adding, this house right here, I believe he constructed as well. I was reading something about that it was designed to look like the witch's house in Hansel and Gretel. It's supposed to have like, looks like candy in the tile work or something. So you might want to look into that if you're interested. And we'll go to the next one. Okay, so this one is my all-time favorite. And if you want to know more about Gaudi's style, pretty much everything is in this one building. This building is called Casa Batillo, which is a key building in Barcelona. It was built between 1904 and 1906. This building has actually been moved into the Manzana de la Discordia, or Block of Discord, which is a series of buildings that has a collection of works by the most renowned architects. And it's really great that it's there because it's such an awesome building. It's nicknamed the Casa dels Osos, or House of Bones, because the top makes it look really skeletal, and that kind of goes along with his whole style as well. He designed the roof to look like the scales of a dragon. It also is said to be rumored that his goal was to avoid straight lines completely. As you can see, everything is wavy, just like the apartment building that I showed you. It's just everything in the house is wavy. And also, most of the outside is decorated with mosaics, which I didn't really show very many here. But you can kind of see up here that it's all tile work, so it kind of goes along with the whole dragon feel as well. And it starts in shades of orange and kind of moves to bluish greens. And even, you can kind of see that here. And then I also, on my next slide, you can see this is the interior of what we just saw. And even like down to the fireplace. Like there's just so much detail that I just can't go into how much detail there is. And this is really beautiful tile work as well. And this comes to another great piece called the Sagrada Familia, or the Holy Family Church. It is Gaudi's most ambitious work after 1910. He loved it so much that he abandoned nearly all other works that he had been focusing on so that he could just do this one building. He begun in 1883. This style is moved more to a Gothic feel, if you've learned about that. The outside stone makes it look as if it's melting in the sun. I think it kind of looks like a sand castle. So it reminds me of, how he plays on playfulness and childlike things. The towers are topped with brightly colored mosaics, which look like bowls of fruit, as you can see in the bottom right corner. This is because Gaudi believed that color is life, and knowing that he would not live to see the completion of his masterpiece, he also left colored drawings of his visions for future architects to follow. Gaudi died in 1926, and in fact the church is still undergoing construction to this day and has a final completion target date of 2026. So that's coming up to mark the 100th anniversary of his passing. When designing the temple, Gaudi invented an extraordinary method for determining the correct angle for which each of the leaning columns, like you saw in Park de Güell. He made a hanging model of the church, and he turned it upside down, and gravity did the math for him. The ongoing construction of the Sagrada Familia is paid for by tourism. When the Sagrada Familia is complete, the church will have a total of 18 towers, each dedicated to a different religious figure, and they will all be hollow, allowing the placement of various types of bells which will sound with the choir. And along with, if you've ever learned about Gothic architecture, it's really pointy. So you can kind of see how it's just like really harsh lines. And also, another thing that's unique in Gothic architecture is these rose windows. They're just basically windows of stained glass, kind of just look like flowers. And this is actually when you are in the church and you look up, this is what you see. And it's actually the same as what you see here, this is from a different angle. It kind of reminds me of a kaleidoscope. Just think about that. And this is my last slide. So, in the conclusion, I'm really happy that I decided to go with this topic because I always wanted to learn more about Gaudi's other works and his distinct style. Last week we were talking about in the music and culture how we definitely need stuff like this in America because we don't really have anything this unique. Like, I don't have a building that looks like a sandcastle. And I definitely believe that the Spanish architecture of Barcelona itself is extremely unique because of Gaudi. And it's just unlike anything I've ever seen, like I said. If you get a chance, I would strongly recommend looking at other architecture of Barcelona or other Gaudi works. I mean, Gaudi's not the only artist of Barcelona that really makes it Barcelona. There's way more that you could be looking for, and they're just as spectacular. Well, I hope you enjoyed this as much as I did, and nos vemos!